מזמור לדוד, אדוני רואי לא יחסר, בינותיך ירביצני, על מי מנוחות ינהלני, נפשי ישובב, ינחני במגלי צדק, למען שמו. גם כי אלך בגיא צל מוות, לא ירא רע, כי אתה עמדי. שבטך ומשענתך, המה ינחמוני. תערוך לפני שולחן, נגד צורריי. דשנת ושם מראשי, כוסי רוויה. אך טוב וחסד ירדפוני כל ימי חיי, ושבתי בבית אדוני ליורך ימי.
Please join me in chanting the words of Psalm 23 in the English. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guides me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever.
Adonai natan v'Adonai lakach, Yishem Adonai mevarach. The Lord has given, the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. We gather here today to express our deep abiding love, to pay respects and to honor and to say goodbye to our dear beloved Ruth, who this week was taken from us. Our hearts are heavy with grief. A veil of tears covers our eyes as we contemplate the loss of an extraordinary woman filled with such vitality and energy and kindness and love, who nurtured this beautiful family, who gave back to her community, who was a loving wife and companion and a precious friend to so many. But at the same time, we also are comforted by the memories of wonderful times shared and the many gifts that she leaves behind. I'm going to call a number of members of the family who are going to share words with us this morning. I'm going to call first upon Beth, and then Shraga, and then on Karen, Alex, and Michael.
Being sent out on the airwaves all over, and I want to do some shout outs, but one special shout out locally is to Tara and the loving people that took care of my mother till the end, to know that she was loved and cared for by my sister and everyone, and like I said, Tara and the others was a great comfort. And there were a lot of people that I know wanted to be here and are very sad that they couldn't be here, And I'd like to give a shout out and thanks to them for their support and sympathy and other kind words that I've received from them. We can start with Israel, Vancouver, Canada, California, Seattle. I know she loved people and was loved in Arizona and Florida. And these were all the places that she went to visit. And she loved to see the people she loved and was loved by. A few years ago, I was thinking about living in a world without my mom. And it was pretty painful, but I decided since my mom was going to live to be well into her hundreds, that I would pass with her at the same time. It seemed probable at the time, but God had other plans, and my mom was so youthful in her approach to life, and she was so much fun. My son Nicholas said that his grandma was cool, and he would say that every time he learned things like his grandma went whitewater rafting in Alaska, and that my mom took his other grandma to Las Vegas to do some gambling, and she was great at gambling. And how cool it was when she sat down with all of us to make candy lays for his high school graduation. She was always enthusiastic about trying new things. She lived in the present and without fear. Even when she became ill, she remained positive and continued to answer the phone in her sing-songy voice. I thought I'd be able to do it. I don't know if I can. Hello. And she continued to do that. And she made the hard road so much easier for all of us to bear. I got her a birthday card. I gave it to her a few weeks ago because I said I wasn't going to be here for her birthday. She would have been 86 next week. And this card is just so her and meant for her. And I was going to read it in past tense, but I'm not going to do that right now. There are so many things to love and appreciate about you. How easy it is to talk to you, the way you listen, the thoughtful things you do, the way you know just the right thing to say. What a great role model you've always been. How much there is to learn from you. Dear Mom, I am so grateful to have a mom who is so loving, caring, and inspiring the way you are. I could not have said it any better. I love you forever, and I will miss you so, so much. Thank you.
I guess the first thing is to ask forgiveness from my mother. I'll speak for the whole family. That I'm sorry if there was any way that we slighted you, or we made you unhappy, or sad, whatever something might have been over all these wonderful years that you were here with us. So I guess to start off, that ask Mahila for all of those on behalf of the family. I guess for all the friends. Say we're going to miss you is an understatement. How do you even say such a thing? Chazal, the rabbis teach that the mitzvah, there's a commandment of kibbud av v'em, to honor your parents. So the question is it's basically, they say it's one of the most difficult mitzvahs, one of the most difficult commandments for a person to do. And it comes out after the argument back and forth. They say it's better not to be born at all, because it's basically a commandment that is impossible to fulfill. We see from the Gemara, the oral tradition, that there was a time that, again, I don't remember at the moment, please forgive me, but the mother of one of the Amorim had to walk through mud, and they said that he was correct as he laid himself down so that his mother wouldn't have to walk through the mud, that she shouldn't have to get dirty. So we're supposed to go as far as an extent to honor our parents as much, and even beyond what we can't do, we're supposed to still do. So they say it's better not to be born at all, but obviously we're here, and these are the mitzvahs, the commandments that we're supposed to do. So to come out and say that now that this is over, this is the last chance for us to honor you here in this world. And they say that, and after that it's over. But who can say that they want it to be over? I know I personally can't say that I want it to be over. It's something that I would have hoped to gone on for many, many more years. Loved my mother dearly. I can tell you she was, I don't have to tell you, everyone knows how special she was. Her attributes that I can say that I definitely learned from, that I felt her presence as I made the trip back here from Eretz Yisrael. And I kind of felt her guiding hand to make the trip back easy. And again, it's just something, and it's something that she was very, very, very strong person. I remember more than a year ago when she found out that she was ill, but she was so strong, and she said, you know, she's going to fight it, and she did. Her strength and the way she approached, she was very happy. She always looked for the positive. And all through the whole time, it was only one time, which was the last time that I spoke with her, that she actually said to me, she said, Shrag, I'm not doing good. I'm not. I can't. She didn't say she can't. Actually, I take that back. She didn't say that. She just said, it was a bad day. And I believe that was less than 24 hours she'd passed. But it was only until that point. Otherwise, the whole time, everything was positive. Wherever she could give support, chizuk, any way that she could lift another person up, she did. And so far, the people have come up to us, the family, and these are the things that she was known for, and that is something that we could say who she was. And that's a wonderful thing that to leave behind for her children and the family to be able to carry on with that. She was her generosity in every way was, there really are words for it. She would give of herself to the end. If she had something to give, she would give it. And it was a principle that she had, and it's something that I can say I personally learned from, and I think we all have. Generosity in every way. She wanted to laugh. She wanted to go to the light side of life. And I think she did. I really believe that she did. So these are just a few. She was again up. I apologize for perhaps just repeating myself. But she was full of joy. And that is really always what she wanted and what she tried to put out to everyone that she touched. She had the strength that she had taken care of numerous people in the family as they were older. Have since passed on. But to be there for them, to take them, and to be supportive. And these are the attributes that she's left behind that are very worthy for all of us to carry on and to spread, and also to give out to everyone that we come in contact with. So, again, it's there's no words, nothing to be said, but I love you. I ask you for mechila from all of us. Let's say some shalom. You should have an easy journey.
Hello, I am Alex, Beth's daughter and Ruth's granddaughter. And today I wanted to share a few things that I admire so very deeply about my grandmother and hope to embody myself. The first is that the fact, as all of her grandkids know, is that when you went out with Grandma, she would see someone she knew. It happened every time. And her social community went so much further than that. At her 85th birthday, I had the chance to meet some of her lifelong friends, some of whom I know are here today. Friends that she'd had for 50, for 60, for 80 years. There are very few people, I think, who can say that, and it's no surprise to me that my grandmother, with her kindness and her caring, and her positivity and her generosity and her good humor, is someone who inspired lifelong loyalty. And I certainly hope one day to be able to say the same. Second relates to two of my favorite stories about my grandmother. One you already heard reference to, that my two grandmas, something I'm very proud of, that my two grandmothers went to Las Vegas together. They did that because my grandmother on my dad's side had always wanted to go to Vegas and had never had the chance. And so Grandma said that, well, we're going. And she took her to Vegas, and they had a fantastic time and told the story for years after. It also wasn't the last trip they took together. My freshman year, my first year of college, they got in the car with my grandfather and with Phil and drove from Cleveland to Philadelphia to visit me for family weekend because my parents weren't able to make it. And it was not an easy journey, some bumps on the way, and they had every right to show up and be a little grumpy, but they came and were laughing and were ready to spoil me, as always. And I think for that, it just shows and really reflected the way that my grandmother was willing and able to open her heart to everyone, and that she would go so far and travel so far for those she loved. And that she always made her grandchildren, and I know so many other people, feel very, very special. Finally, what I admire most of all about my grandmother is the way that she, as you had already heard and know so well, lived life to the fullest. She did that in big ways, like her relationship with Phil Moskowitz. The way that these two people found each other and loved and cared for each other for years is something that I so deeply admire and brought so much joy to them and also to their families as they brought and grew our family in big and wonderful ways. Grandma also lived life to the fullest in the small and just as important ways. She took so much joy in playing Maj with her friends, in her lunches out, in drawing numbers for bingo, and her walks from R.H. Myers to Menorah Park, always stopping for ice cream whenever she could. She enjoyed those simple but oh so important pleasures to the fullest, and in doing so, she set an example for all of us. I can say that I'm so lucky that she was my grandmother, and I will carry all of these qualities about her and so many others along with me for the rest of my life. Thank you.
Hello, good afternoon. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Karen Stetner, and Ruth was my grandmother. I am the daughter of Carol and Don Stetner. So there are two things that my grandma loved immensely. First was spending time with her family, and the second was obviously food. As far back as I can remember, my grandma has been such a consistent part of my life. She's been to every birthday, graduation, and holiday. There's no doubt that she loved having brunch at my mom's. Any excuse to get together on a Sunday morning for brunch, I knew I could count on my grandma being there. When it came time, her place at the table was always set. Her life experience working at the cafeteria at Monticello made her shine in the kitchen while preparing for brunch. She would do anything for my mom. She would clean the dishes, she'd cut all the bagels, and she knew that my least favorite task was preparing the lox. She would delicately roll each piece of fish into the perfect portion, which in turn relieved me from any lox rolling duties. Because of her patience and care, her lox obviously looked significantly better than mine. She never complained or bragged about all the help she provided. She did it out of love. I know that my future brunch experiences will never be the same without her, and I know that the lox won't be rolled as nice. Thank you.
I'm Michael Stettner. I'm Karen's older brother and Ruth's grandson. So we grew up in Cleveland with Grandma, so we really spent a lot of time with her. The earliest memento I could find of my time with her was in a little photo album my parents made for me when they went to the hospital to give birth to my brother. I was 2 years old at the time. And there was a little blurb in that photo album that said, "Grandma will take good care of Michael while Mommy is in the hospital. Grandma will feed Michael, read him stories, and take Michael for walks." And she did those things and more. She definitely fed us. There was always food whenever we would go over to her house. My personal favorite is we would order in Chinese food, which was really a treat. And then the kids would be dismissed to go watch a movie, Fantasia, in the family room, or go to her basement where she had all the toys that we didn't have at home. She had a light bright to World Book encyclopedias to a ping pong table. Now, we would play ping pong against Grandma, and she was a ping pong ace. She definitely did not go easy on us, and I remember how what an achievement it felt like to beat her for the first time. Wow, she taught us a lot of games, especially card games. I remember her favorite to play with us was 3 to 14. Again, she was tough to beat, but every once in a while I would get lucky. And really, until now, it didn't occur to me that Grandma's house was for anything besides just eating and playing and having fun. That's really the kind of grandma I want my eventual children to have. As I got older, my relationship with Grandma changed a little bit. I started to drive, and she taught me to drive, but I was a pretty bad driver at first, but she never got stressed out. I never saw her nervous, and she never yelled. I remember as I was zigzagging down some narrow country road, she would say, "Oh, Michael, a little bit to the left, please, a little bit to the left." But that's as much as she ever raised her voice, I think. Eventually, she gave me that car that she taught me to drive in, and that was my first car. And like you heard from Alex, we would go out to Chinese food. We no longer ordered in, and when we go to the restaurant, she would know everyone. Even at my wedding, which was just 6 weeks ago, she was still the life of the party. She met all my friends from school she had never met before. Remembered all their names, and of course, they all remembered her. Like we'll all remember her. Thanks.
I want to thank you all for sharing such really beautiful extraordinary memories. There is so much love in this family. I felt it when we were together last night. I know how much you all meant to Ruth and what she meant to you. I pray that God send each of you comfort and strengthen you in this difficult time of loss. Ruth was a loving daughter to Morris and Fanny of blessed memory, and a loving sister to Lil and Lou, to Dorothy and Saul, to Max and Doris, to Marvin and Elaine, and to Al, all of blessed memory, and a loving sister-in-law to Ruth and Stuart. She was a loving, devoted, caring mother to you, Carol and Don, and Beth and Scott, Shragat and Chanalea. A loving grandmother to you, Katie and Michael, Jonathan, Karen, Alexandra, Natasha, Nicholas, Gabriel and Shana, Eliezer and Devorah, Sarah and Rafi, Moshe, Shimon and Elisheva, Yitzhak and Yisrael Yaakov. A loving great-grandmother to Lily and Nasanel and Shana, and Yosef Shalom and Meir and Batsheva and Hadassah, Nechama, Miriam, and Talia Aliza. All of you loved Ruth in life, and now we're left to revere her memory in death. She was a loving and devoted wife to Bob of blessed memory, and a loving, devoted companion to Phil of blessed memory, devoted also to Phil's family, to Sue and Jeff and her children, who she treated also as her grandchildren, and theirs as great-grandchildren. Ruth had enough love for everybody, and enough joy. And she gave you the legacy of that love, and the legacy of the values that she lived by. Ruth grew up in a observant Jewish home. Her father was a kosher butcher. When she was little, she used to help out at the butcher shop. And you shared with me that when she was only 8 or 10, they even let her use the meat cutter. And at lunchtime from school, she would come home to make steak and then go back to school. She loved helping out in the store, and she was very proud of that. She went to Roosevelt and then to Heights High. She was very social, and she belonged to a lot of clubs in school. She loved to swim, her favorite thing to do perhaps her whole life. She loved swimming. She loved to play ping pong, and you shared with me that she even won a ping pong championship at Fenn College. And over the years, she played ping pong often with the family. You shared that she was a defensive player, but she was very good. The two Ruths, your mother Ruth and Bob's sister Ruth, met at Roosevelt or at Heights during their school years, maybe at about 15 years old. It's also when she met Stuart, and ultimately when she met, most importantly, your father, Robert Bob. They were friends all the way through school, and they dated and ultimately married and enjoyed 65. It would have been this summer. It would have been 65 years. And I know that when your father passed away, that was very hard for her. Very difficult, because they were deeply in love with each other and so very close to each other. And you shared a beautiful story. You said that when your father proposed to your mother, he was living in a house, and his mother was living, your grandmother was living with him. His father passed away when he was 20 years old. He was overseas in the military. He came home to be at home and take care of the family. And he told your mother it was a package deal. This is the way it was. They would all live together. And your mother, who also valued family, accepted that package. And you grew up in a home with two mothers in that home, as your grandmother also helped to raise you. And Ruth and Bob enjoyed in the years they were together, a beautiful life, filled with family and friends and much love. They were both very social. They belonged to a number of clubs, including the couples club at the synagogue, and had many wonderful friends. They loved to dance, and they went dancing often together. And Scott, you shared a very tender memory last night of a time you were visiting, and there was a song playing in the house, and Bob stood up and gallantly took Ruth's hand, and they danced together. They also loved to travel, and they went many places together. And they took you on wonderful trips that often traced history, so they were also learning experiences. And on those trips, often you would meet Ruth, the other Ruth, halfway. And Ruth also traveled by herself at times to California to see family every year. She loved to travel her whole life, and she traveled to visit each of you, your families, everywhere that you've lived, even in various places in Canada, in Hawaii, and in Israel. She loved to do things. She was not one to sit still. And her grandchildren have already recounted some of her activities, but I'll add that she loved playing Maj, and she loved calling out the numbers at bingo at Myers. And you heard that she loves gambling, and she had a knack for winning. She loved amusement parks, especially roller coasters. And when it was standing, she loved Euclid Beach. And Sue, you said that she loved to live dangerously. And she was active her whole life, swimming, exercising, walking. When Bob passed away, that left a big hole in your mother's life, as in yours. It's difficult to live alone, especially after having had a long and meaningful relationship, and especially when it was a good and loving relationship, as theirs was a beautiful, deeply loving relationship. And the same was true for Phil when he lost his beloved wife as well. And so what a gift it was that the two of them came together and got a second shot, another chance to live in a relationship filled with love and with joy. And Sue, you were once at synagogue feeling kind of down. You saw Pearl Freed. She asked you why you were so sad, and you told her that you were worried about your dad, about him not having anybody in his life. And she said, "Give me a few days." And then, sure enough, she called you. And she said, "I know a nice girl. And the four of us are going to go out. Your father and this girl and me and my boyfriend." Pearl's boyfriend, it turns out, was your cousin Barry's father. That was about 2002. The beginning of a beautiful, budding relationship, a romance, a bond between your mother and Sue's father, between Ruth and Phil, that gave both of them great joy and that touched everyone around them. And not only gave them a new life in a relationship together, but also brought the two families together and was a gift to everybody on both sides. Phil and Ruth loved to do everything together. You could often find them at the synagogue for many different synagogue activities and events or classes or services. You could find them hanging out at yours truly, where they went very often. It was their place. They would order fish and chips. Phil even got Ruth into sports, and she became a really big fan. And boy, she could talk nonstop basketball and baseball. And you shared that was a new side of her you hadn't experienced before. How beautiful the families merged together in the way that they did. And that Phil was able to get to know and to love your family you, your children, to know about your grandchildren and great-grandchildren, and that Ruth developed a loving relationship with Sue and Jeff's children and grandchildren. They gave each other life and joy, and they gave the family new life as well. Ruth was a very wonderful, sweet grandmother and great-grandmother, and you've already heard a great deal from Michael and Karen and Alex, from the three of them, about how wonderful she was. So I won't repeat their stories. But I'll just say that just as your great-grandmother helped raise your parents, Ruth, in a sense, also helped to raise you. Always spending time with you, babysitting, constantly present in your lives on a regular basis. She was loving and caring. She was inquisitive in a good way. She always wanted to know what was happening in your lives, what you were doing, what you had accomplished. She was always in this elevated state of happiness that made it feel really good to be around her. She was very playful, and she loved to play with you. Natasha, you share memories of playing Rummy Cube together and cards. She loved to play games. She loved to buy you gifts. And you were always amazed at what a social butterfly she was, and how wherever you went with her, no matter when or where it was, there were always people who would come up to her to talk to her who knew her, often from childhood. She never missed a birthday. She never missed being present for anything that you did or accomplished. And there are so many wonderful memories of Passover and Hanukkah family gatherings and Shabbat dinners, and trips that she came to visit with you in the various places that you grew up and lived. You were the center of her life. She talked about you constantly. She showed your pictures to everybody that she knew, so that if we didn't know you personally, we knew about you through her, because she had such pride in you. And I know that you had such love for her. Ruth was very deeply connected to her Judaism and to synagogue. It was a very important part of her life and part of the core of her identity. And she gave that to each of you. As I said, she grew up in a traditional home. And as you were growing up, she kept a kosher home. She brought you all to Hebrew school to make sure you got a Jewish education. She herself would take classes at synagogue and was very involved in the shul. She was active in sisterhood and active in Chazak, our seniors group. And at least on one of those trips to Israel, she traveled with our federation in 2002. That was the first trip that I led to Israel from our synagogue, and we were on that trip together along with Barry. And I had just come to the synagogue in 2001, and that was the first chance I had to really get to know Ruth and to appreciate what a very special person she is, what she was. She also was treasurer of the Hebrew Benevolent Society. She loved to come to services. She loved to hear the cantors sing. She loved your singing. And she loved your concerts and would never want to miss them. She, in fact, was a very good singer, too. She had a beautiful voice. And she sang all the old Yiddish songs. She knew them by heart. There are so many wonderful memories of her food, as you heard from, I think it was Alex. Her matzo ball soup and her chopped liver. She was a great cook. And the grandchildren also remember her French toast. And how she loved to eat out. How she loved ice cream and chocolate phosphates and root beer floats. Her deep love of animals, especially the family dogs. And shopping for clothes before school. And your mom taking you swimming at the Cumberland Park pool, or to play in the sandbox of the park near your home. How she would always give you change to buy things when she sent you off to school. How she would take you to the toy store at Mayfield and Superior out of the blue. How she always made sure that your birthdays were so special. How she got so much nachas from every family simcha. And know how she was beaming at Michael and Katie's wedding. What a special opportunity that was that she was able to be present for that. Ruth was kind and giving and generous. She would give to many worthy causes, and she helped a number of individuals quietly, never saying anything, never talking about her help, just helping in her own modest way. She was thoughtful and caring, always looking after others, especially those who were older. She made sure they would have whatever they needed. She was a great listener. And she not only listened, but she retained what she heard, and she followed through afterward, checking on people's health and their well-being. She was a lot of fun, very positive, upbeat, optimistic. She had a great sense of humor, and she knew how to tell a joke. And she had such a youthful attitude. She always dressed in very cute, stylish outfits. Her nails were always polished. She always was up to date on the latest news, and especially on politics. And sometimes she could be a little sassy. The three of you were so devoted to your mom. And as she loved you and took care of you, you loved and watched over and took care of her. Saw her through her illness. Made sure she was cared for, watched over, that she always knew how much she was loved. Beth and Shraga, I know that you called constantly to speak to her and check on her. And Carol, you were with her on almost a daily basis, making sure that she was taken care of. And Sue, you also watched over her, gave her a great gift. She gave her love to each of you, and you returned that love manyfold. What a great gift you were to her. How blessed she was to have a family that lifted her up and that made life so joyful and that stayed surrounding her to the very end. And Ruth lived a joyful life to the very end. To the very end, she was alert and upbeat, never changed. Shraga, you shared that just with us, right, how just before was the first time that you ever heard anything negative. That was so typical of her, because she was always, always upbeat. And the family shared last night, the last thing she ate was ice cream and apple pie. That's just perfect. Among her favorite foods. She left this world with sweetness, just as she gave so much sweetness to each of you. We're now in this Hebrew month of Elul. It's the month before Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. And the rabbis teach us that this month of Elul is a month of reconciliation. It's when we seek to draw close to the people in our lives, to ask forgiveness for things we might have done wrong, to forgive them of any slight they may have committed against us, to heal those relationships, to repent of any wrongdoing, and ask forgiveness of God, to heal our relationship with our Maker. The name of this Hebrew month, Elul, the rabbis tell us it's an acronym. It stands for Ani Ladodi V'Dodi Li. I am my beloved and my beloved is mine. That is a verse from the Song of Songs, which is an expression of deep love between two human beings, but which the rabbis understood to be a metaphor describing the love between Israel and God. So Elul is the month of love. And how beautiful it is. You know, they say there are no coincidences. That your mom, that Ruth, passed away during this month of love. Because if there is one word that embodies everything that is Ruth, it is love. The love that she held for you. The love that she gave to you. The love that you returned to her. The deep bonds that hold you together. And it's my prayer, all of our prayers, that you should always feel that love. Always feel her presence in your lives. And rabbis teach that though the body dies, the soul lives on eternally, bound to its Creator. She will always be with you. I hope that you feel her inside, comforting you, giving you strength, giving you guidance. And may God watch over her soul and reward her for all the love that she shared in this world. May her memory be for a blessing, and we say it together. Amen. We'll rise now for the memorial prayer.
El male rachamim shochein b'meromim hametzei menucha nechona tachat kanfei hashechina b'malot kadoshim v'tehorim כזוהר הרקיע מסירים את נשמת רות בר משה הלוי שהלכה לעולמה בגן עדן תהי מנוחתה. בעל הרחמים, הסתיריה וצדק כנפיך לעולמים, וצרור בצרור החיים את נשמתם. אדוני הוא נחלתה, ותנוח בשלום על משכבה. ונאמר אמן.
Exalted, compassionate God, we pray that you grant infinite rest in your sheltering presence among the holy and pure to the soul of our beloved Ruth, who has gone to her eternal home. Merciful One, we ask that she find perfect peace in your eternal embrace. May her soul be bound up in the bond of eternal life. May the Lord be her portion. May she rest in peace. And we say it together, Amen. Interment will follow at the Bnei Yeshurun Memorial Park Cemetery in Chesterland on Route 306, after which the family will return to Menorah Park for the consolation meal, and then Shiva will be held at the home of Carol and Don Stetner, 28300 Shaker Boulevard. Please note, this is a change for those that received the synagogue notice, which had indicated Shiva was going to be at Myers. It will not be at Myers. It will be at Carol and Don's home, 28300 Shaker Boulevard. That's the third house east of the City Hall and Police Station on the south side of the street. Visitation this evening, 7 to 9. Friday, 1 to 4. Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, 1 to 4 and 7 to 9. In lieu of flowers, friends who wish may contribute to the Menorah Park Hospice or to the Philip Moskowitz Early Childhood Educational Fund at Bnei Yeshurun Congregation or the Pancreatic Cancer Action Network. Please remain standing.